For a bird to fly, you need two wings. One wing is compassion, the other is wisdom.
Yes.
So compassion needs to be balanced with wisdom. So take, for example, these days it's very easy for us to get scam calls. And if we fall into those traps, we are only going to benefit a very small group of people. But it might be our life savings, which could have been used for a much bigger purpose. But once that savings went into the hands of these unwholesome scammers, doesn't make sense. So therefore, we should be more diligent and vigilant before we make our donations to ensure that our donations are well used. That is, I think, compassion and wisdom being deployed together. The practice of mindfulness is key because that ability to notice that pleasant experience and notice how that pleasant experience can lead to a desire, can lead to craving, can lead to the whole cycle repeating, requires us to pay attention to that arising of the feeling, but also how it manifests.
I heard one of other teachers say, work as hard as you can, but no harder.
Yeah. And that no harder is a difficult point. So you have to be very mindful. Always check. What's your body telling you? Check the wisdom of your body because our body will give us signals. If we ignore those signals again and again, the body will just send louder signals.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 35 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Meng, co-founder of Buddhism.net and your host. Today we continue to have our very awesome friend, the Venerable Dr. Juewei, director of Nan Tien Institute's Humanistic Buddhist Center and head of program for the Institute's Applied Buddhist Studies and Humanistic Buddhism programs. In today's class, we will explore the last of the 8 realizations of great beings. Venerable Juewei will speak to the essence of this sutra, why Bodhicitta is a necessary and inevitable practice. This is the essence. So aren't you glad you're here? Congratulations. You're so lucky. You have Venerable Juewei. Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. And as a reminder, this session will be recorded and then uploaded onto YouTube later. If you are comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn your camera on so that Venerable can see all your lovely faces. And with that, dear Venerable, over to you.
Thank you so much, Meng. You
like my mudra?
Delivered the perfect introduction. Congratulations.
Thank
Only
you.
9 tries.
I know, right? And with the mudra. Yeah, I always wanted to do a mudra.
Hello, my dear friends of Vibe with Venerables. Auspicious greetings to every one of you, and thank you for being here today. So please allow me to share screen so that we can all meditate on an image that by now should be quite familiar to many of us. So take a look at this calm looking, but rather precarious stack of rocks. Take it in. Observe what is going on in your mind as you look at this image. Pay attention to the details. And when you are ready, please feel free to close your eyes. Let's do our usual body scan to allow our body to relax. Starting with our forehead. Relax. Relax our eyes, facial muscles. Yes. And our jaws. Relax. Relax our neck, the front of our neck, the back of our neck. Relax. Relax our shoulders, our upper arms, and then our forearms. Relax. Relax our hands, the palms of our hands, the backs of our hands. Relax our fingers. Relax. Now relax our back, starting from our upper back, down our middle back, onto our lower back. Relax, while still maintaining a straight spine. Relax our thigh muscles, calf muscles, and our feet. Relax every toe. Relax. Now bring your attention to the tip of your nose and simply observe every in-breath and out-breath. Without any labeling, without any judgment, without any effort. Let's just sit and observe our breath for the next few moments. What a joy it is to be present to our breath. Now let's bring back into our memory the image that we last saw before we closed our eyes. The image of the 8 stacked stones. Can you recall all 8 stones? Their colors, their texture, how they were stacked? Could you recall what's in the foreground and the background? The details slowly coming back to you. And whenever you're ready, I welcome you to open your eyes and return to this Zoom space. Thank you, everyone, for checking in with me. I'd like to begin with a reflective poll. This poll invites you to reflect on what you have learned so far in this Vibe with Venerables series on the Sutra of the 8 Realizations of Great Beings. It brings you to the first 7 awakenings that we have covered. Which of these do you believe is the most important for cultivating your awakened heart? As usual, this is a single choice poll. Take your time to reflect on what you feel to be the most helpful for you to awaken some particular part of your heart what may still be asleep in you that you like to wake it up? Is it understanding impermanence? Is it letting go of desire? Is it practicing contentment? Is it cultivating diligence? Is it pursuing wisdom? Is it embracing generosity? Or is it focusing on compassion? Feel free to take your pick, but also if you wish to elaborate in the chat stream. But do take your time to reflect. It is a very interesting spread. I'm seeing that the largest number of us, about a quarter of us, thinking that we should focus on compassion to purify our desires, to reduce others' suffering, as probably that seems to work out for most of you. I think it's a pretty even spread. I mean, focusing on compassion comes up top, and then cultivating diligence is next, and letting go of desire, and then an even spread across. This is, well, it looks like all eight of these awakenings are of value, or all 7 of these 8 awakenings are of value to most of you. That's wonderful to hear. Okay, so thank you very much for your sharing. Keep it in mind, because next week we'll do a similar poll, and let's see if anything may have changed between now and a week later. So thank you all for your poll results. Let me now move on to finish up with the final awakening of the Sutra of the 8 realizations of great beings. So as a recap, the first awakening teaches us to recognize the transient nature of all things. Everything we love or not will pass. Nothing is static. That is the illusory nature of reality we need to first see. But more importantly, we need to accept. Only when we realize the impermanent nature of all things can we be ready for this second awakening, which is to loosen our grip on anything we desire or hate. In other words, first recognize and then reduce our attachment to everything. Develop an equanimous mind. So why are we not contented? Very often, it's because we have a perceived sense of lack in us. Once we see through that we are helplessly grasping at something that can never satisfy our sense of lack, then we will start looking for alternatives. The third awakening is to be contented with whatever life offers us. That comes from this powerful Buddhist sense of equanimity. Unfortunately, we have strong habits and systemic pressures that pull us back into samsaric grasping for something that never satisfies. Hence, the fourth awakening is to exercise diligent effort to break through our bad habits and wrong views. Where should we place our effort? The next 4 awakenings address that. The 5th awakening tells us to seek out Buddhist wisdom in order to teach and liberate others who are equally trapped. The 6th awakening reminds us to reduce our resentment with equanimity. And the 7th awakening encourages us to purify our desires and live simply so that we can develop compassion for all beings. So let me read the 8th realization with you. Realize that the cycle of birth and death is a raging fire, and that suffering is boundless. Initiate the Mahayana mind to universally help all beings and vow to shoulder the boundless suffering of sentient beings so that all sentient beings may reach great joy. That was a big vow. What do you think of this 8th awakening? Please feel free to post your thoughts in the chat stream. And as usual, if you agree with what others already say, please feel free to add a reaction. Thank you for reminding us that we all co-suffer. And when we are joyous to others, they will reflect the joy back to us. And certainly, we want to help everyone who is in need. And everyone is in need of something. It's for us as bodhisattvas to identify them. Certainly, the importance of compassion, reducing suffering for others. That's right. This is a co-awakening that we have to come together and do it together. And that's the Mahayana concept. We just can't do it alone. It's a very mammoth task. Thank you. Well, please feel free to reflect on this final awakening, which is what I call the essence of this entire sutra. So let me try to explain this a little bit. Central to this 8th and final awakening is the Mahayana mind, or Bodhicitta. The essence of this sutra is to encourage readers to cultivate the compassionate mind for universal liberation, that is, for all sentient beings. This aligns with the Mahayana thought of engaging with the world. There is a Buddhist text that is dedicated to this bodhisattva ideal. It is called Bodhicaryāvatāra, which was composed by Shantideva at Nalanda University in India sometime during the 8th century Common Era. The prestige of this particular text was established as it has been selected as one of Oxford's world classics and is enormously influential in Tibet, where it's regarded as the principal source of ethical thought for Mahayana Buddhism. The title Bodhicaryāvatāra is variously translated, most often as a guide to the bodhisattva way of life or engaging in the bodhisattva deeds. The central moral phenomenon taken up in this text is that of bodhicitta, which literally means enlightening mind or awakening mind. And note, it is a moral concern. This bodhicitta involves an altruistic aspiration, grounded in compassion, to cultivate oneself as a moral agent for the benefit of all beings. That cultivation transforms our way of seeing ourselves and others, and what we would call practical or engaged wisdom. In short, bodhicitta entails a commitment to attain and to manifest full awakening, but for the benefit of others. And that's why it's a moral concern. It's always other-oriented. It is important to note that the goal of a bodhisattva is not just to lead a happy life or to be a good person. The point is to benefit others as well as oneself. And in the case of Shantideva, there is no difference between self and others as objects of moral concern. So what you see here is a quote from chapter 8 of the Bodhicaryāvatāra. Shantideva urges practitioners to earnestly meditate on the idea that, and I quote, "Since others experience the same happiness and suffering as me, I should protect everyone as I do myself," unquote. So you see, it is about that recognition of suffering and also the recognition that we co-suffer and we have to come together and get out of it together. So we co-suffer, we also co-exit suffering. The Buddhist diagnosis of why we suffer is due to our primal confusion. Primal confusion means it's very, very deep, very, very deep. And what is the confusion about? It's about the nature of reality. Taking what is in fact interdependent and impermanent as independent and enduring. So a meditative practice is necessary to help adjust to this interdependence and emptiness as a way of being in the world, rather than just a way of thinking about the world. So what meditation does is that it goes deeper, because the primal confusion is deep down underneath. We need to get deep down underneath in order to adjust our view, to cultivate that right view that the nature of the world is interdependent, it's empty, it's impermanent. So this is the deep Buddhist insight. The Bodhisattva path is motivated in part by the realization that not to experience the suffering of others as one's own and not to take the welfare of others as one's own is to suffer. It's to suffer because we are in it together. One will experience a profound sense of alienation when we depart from this reality of an interdependent community. So now you see that right view of our interdependence is key to getting out of suffering. Interdependence guarantees that our joys are social joys, our sorrows are social sorrows, our identity is a social identity. So we co-suffer, but we also co-celebrate. So we either suffer and rejoice together in recognition of our bonds to one another, or we end up losing ourselves in ignorance, in isolation. So do not think that independence is a good thing. It is not. It is ignorance. So this is why compassion is the central moral value for engaging in the world in Mahayana Buddhism. The compassion at issue is not a passive emotional response and not just a mere desire. Otherwise, it just ends up being another desire. Instead, it is a genuine commitment manifested in thought, speech, and action to act for the welfare for all sentient beings. And the all sentient beings includes me. So compassion is founded upon Shantideva's insight that suffering is bad, regardless of whose it is. To fail to take another's suffering seriously as a motivation for action is in fact a form of suffering and is irrational action. And this is why the right view is so important. The Mahayana Bodhisattva path does not seek to just transform the world or even to just cultivate good personal conduct, but rather in a transformation of that experience in leading an awakened life of ethical aspiration and engagement. And that's the bodhicitta. It's ethical aspiration and engagement in the world, in this awakened view of interdependence, of impermanence, of emptiness. So Ksitigarbha, a very revered Mahayana Bodhisattva, vowed to help all beings in hell and those who are suffering. His famous vow states, "Until all hells are emptied, I will not become a Buddha." This illustrates the profound commitment of the bodhicitta and the willingness to endure personal sacrifice for the sake of others. His commitment is to remain in the realms of existence until all sentient beings are liberated, which includes helping those who are suffering in hell. This commitment to compassion and the alleviation of suffering is what ultimately will lead to his enlightenment. His journey is not just about my personal liberation, but about serving others, which is a key aspect of the Bodhisattva path. So Ksitigarbha represents the ideal of a Bodhisattva who prioritizes the welfare of others. His vow serves as a reminder that the path to enlightenment is intertwined with the compassion we extend to all sentient beings and reinforces the interconnectedness of all life in the pursuit of enlightenment. And so, in summary, today's lesson reminds us to recognize that we are trapped in an endless cycle of birth and death. And we are co-trapped in this endless cycle. It's due to our collective ignorance of the nature of reality as impermanent and as interdependent. The call is for us to meditate on this true nature of reality so that we'll be able to attain that right view, to see the world as it truly is, as impermanent, as interdependent, and as empty of any fixed essence. So once we recognize that we are not separate from one another, we can initiate this bodhicitta to compassionately lead all sentient beings away from suffering, because that's the only way. Because you are so intertwined. I can't escape alone because I'm going to be pulled down by everyone else. But when everyone else goes towards the exit, I'm going to go along with everyone else because of the strength of our collective karma. And that's how we can move towards the great joy of nirvana together. Congratulations, my friends. We have completed the 8 awakenings of the Sutra on the 8 realizations of great beings. This very short sutra is, in my mind, extremely profound. We learn that we must first be awakened to the impermanent nature of all things. That's a necessary first step. Only with that recognition can we realize it is our attachment to permanence, especially to things we desire, that we love, that leads to inevitable suffering. That recognition that it is futile to long for something that cannot happen, for example, for permanence. So once we recognize that, we can become content with whatever is in front of us, fostering gratitude and acceptance in our heart. Once we reduce the perturbations in our mind, we can then apply diligent effort in our practice to overcome our laziness that wants to succumb to our strong habits. An important practice is to seek out Buddhist wisdom so that we can become a model to others and thereby liberate them from their suffering. Next comes an important awakening to learn to release our past grievances and open our hearts to all beings through selfless generosity. The seventh awakening calls us to purify our sensory desires and focus on compassion in our daily lives. And today, we finished with the eighth awakening to engage with the world ethically by initiating the Mahayana Bodhicitta. Meng, can I hand the floor back to you?
Okay, friends, before we begin our discussion, let's take a moment to absorb and digest the teachings. So let's take a moment to breathe and reflect on what we just learned and how that relates to our lives. And thank you for your attention, my friends. So let's begin our discussion. If you have any questions for Venerable or reflections you want to share with Venerable, you can use the hand-raising function on Zoom, and I will invite you to unmute yourself. Venerable, if you don't mind, I'd like to share something that I found really useful, and I hope that everybody else will find useful as well. And it's the word Bodhicaryāvatāra. So it's usually translated as a guide to the Bodhisattva way of life. But I found the literal meaning very useful. So literally, it means Bodhi, as in enlightened, Charya, as in action, as in behavior, doing. And then, so the difference between Bodhicharya and Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the mind, the heart. And Bodhicharya is, in addition to having the heart, you do, you act in a way that's enlightened. And the last part is Avatara. It relates to the word avatar. So it is not just acting as in an enlightened way, but being an avatar of that behavior. So together, Bodhicaryāvatāra, I found it really useful to understand the literal meaning and to try to remember and try to live that. So with that, Lao Shi, we have questions from the last week that we didn't that I want to revise. The first question is, so last week we talked about being taken advantage of. And I think you gave a very beautiful answer from Venerable Singh, which is that if you're taken advantage of in a good way, it's okay. Because so, for example, you're taken advantage of in a way that to serve people or to serve in general, then just allow yourself to be quote unquote taken advantage of. Then the question is, are there examples of being taken advantage of in the bad way that we should try to prevent? And if so, what shall we do? So Venerable, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think that's quite an important one because, for a bird to fly, you need two wings. One wing is compassion, the other is wisdom.
Yes.
So compassion needs to be balanced with wisdom. So sometimes when we are compassionate, it's based on an aspiration to liberate all sentient beings. And that's very central to the Bodhisattva path as we have examined today. However, if what we do is not going to benefit other sentient beings, or at least not all sentient beings, then we really have to reconsider. Therefore, we need to have some discernment about what is requested of us. I think we, as bodhisattvas, we should strive to support everyone, but we also need to protect our own well-being, ensuring that our actions are going to be beneficial and sustainable to ourselves and to others. So take, for example, these days it's very easy for us to get scam calls. And if we fall into those traps, we are only going to benefit a very small group of people. But it might be our life savings, which could have been used for a much bigger purpose. For example, it could have been a donation to a temple where you can benefit a bigger greater cause.
mm,
But once that savings went into the hands of these unwholesome scammers, it doesn't make sense. So
yes,
therefore, we should be more diligent and vigilant before we make our donations to ensure that our donations are well used. That is, I think, compassion and wisdom being deployed together.
Okay, thank you. So the key to not being taken advantage of in a bad way is to always exercise wisdom in addition to compassion. Thank you. That's very helpful. So there's another question from last week, which is this: when it comes to purifying the 5 desires, can we start with vedana? Vedana means it basically means feelings, but particularly 3 types of feelings, which are pleasant sensations, unpleasant sensations, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So this person asked, when we purify the 5 desires, can we start with that? And she also asked, would seeing vedana in the body help?
Yeah, thank you, Meng, and thank you for the question. This is a very good follow-up because when we talk about the 5 desires, it's really coming through our sensory organs. So therefore, when it comes through, basically what we hear, what we see, what we taste, what we smell, what we feel, very naturally, there is this sensation of pleasantness, judgment actually of whether it's pleasant, whether it's unpleasant, or whether it's neutral. So this is really a good place to start because that is the next thing that happens. And it's just before craving occurs. So therefore, once we become more aware of that feeling of, or the vedana, what's happening now? Is it feeling pleasant? Is it feeling pleasant, therefore I'm now about to crave? Or is it coming across as unpleasant and now there's this feeling or this action of aversion? That's the point I think we want to catch when we can. So this awareness is very subtle but necessary. And when we can catch it and become fully aware of our feelings at that time as they arise, we become in a better position to decide what our action will be. What does it require? Mindfulness. The practice of mindfulness is key. That's why mindfulness is such a key Buddhist practice, because that ability to notice that pleasant experience and notice how that pleasant experience can lead to a desire, can lead to craving, can lead to the whole cycle repeating, requires us to pay attention. Pay attention to that arising of the feeling, but also how it manifests. And a lot of times it manifests in the body. I wonder if you realize that when something unpleasant happens, we feel it either in the stomach, in the heart, we have definitely flushed face. So this does happen in the body. And it requires that sense of alertness, awareness. So thank you so much for your question, because spot on, exactly where we should be practicing. Thank you. But also remember that all these are impermanent. If you don't spot it fast enough, they'll be gone.
Yes, right. The Buddha had a comparison for it. It's like when it rains, when the rain hit the ground, there's a bubble, and that bubble is compared to as vedana sensation. It almost immediately disappears. So if you don't mind, I just add on to that because
Yes,
in a way that was
please.
helpful to me. Which is there's a chain. The chain that goes from sensation, and then sensation leads to perception, and perception leads to grasping or aversion, and then grasping or aversion leads to suffering, and that is linear chain. And therefore, the implication is that the direct cause of suffering is grasping or aversion. It's like, I want, or I don't want. That is the cause of suffering, not the sensation itself. Therefore, if you can catch it at that point and then break either grasping or aversion, then there's a sensation without suffering. And the mindfulness, what it does is it helps you become aware of this chain and know this chain. And once you know this chain, you are able to know how to regulate it and break it. And that's how we can experience a sensation and perception with no suffering.
That is, you've just mentioned to us the dependent origination cycle. Wonderful. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
It was that even I can understand.
Ah,
Okay, we have a question from text earlier, from the chat earlier. I think this is a very good question. So, Lao Tzu, we talk about enlightenment together, co-awakening.
yeah.
This person asked, oh, I'm covered. Okay, did the Buddha independently gain enlightenment?
I know, isn't that?
Yeah.
It seems from the story
Mhm.
that the prince became the Buddha
Mhm.
because he sat under a Bodhi tree alone,
Mhm.
reflected on his past lives,
Mhm.
and became aware of all that's happening in his past lives, and therefore what's happening in the world around him.
Mhm.
So from that early Buddhist story, it
Mhm.
looks like the prince managed to get independent enlightenment because he was so smart.
Mm.
But little do we know that for him to get to that position, he has also laid the groundwork for that co-awakening to take place. So if he had just gotten enlightenment and go away, he wouldn't be the Buddha. He will be the Pratyeka Buddha, or he's an Arhat.
Mm.
So by definition, he's called a Buddha because he's also laying that groundwork. He has that opportunity for everyone to be enlightened together. His teaching is perfect. So the Buddha's definition in Mahayana Buddhism is that, of course, he's an arhat. He is fully awakened himself, but he also teaches.
Mm.
And it's in his teachings that he has laid that foundation for every one of us to be able to be enlightened. So we are co-awakening together. Now, time to everyone looks linear, isn't it? It's like the Buddha is 2,500 years ahead of us, and we are still struggling. We don't know when. But in the Buddha's mind, it's not. It's not linear time. It's actually, this linear time is also a human construction.
Mm.
It's a human construct. Time is a very amorphous concept. So Buddha nature is in all of us. That's the Mahayana assertion. And that was what the Buddha was said to have said, so we all have the Buddha nature. We all have that ability to be awakened. Or if we are the minute, and in Chan tradition, all you need to do is to get rid of those defilements, change your view, you're enlightened. Immediately. Hope that helps.
Yes, also, if you don't mind me clarifying, the Buddha did lay the groundwork for all of us, even me, even this guy, right, to gain enlightenment. But he himself, it appears that he got it independently, right? Is that true, or what are we
but
missing?
he's always here. His Dharma body is here. See, that's the Mahayana. The Mahayana perspective is that there's a whole pantheon of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas teaching us. And they're all here with us, right with us. But most importantly, they are in us. We all have that Buddha nature in us. So we are all of awakened nature.
I see. So therefore, if I understand you correctly, therefore, because we have this Buddha nature in us, and because this Buddha nature is non-individual, it is totally connected to all.
That's right.
To all beings. Therefore, any enlightenment for or any individual is co-enlightenment, even if it appears to be a singular person.
That's right. It's not.
I see.
Yeah. See, the minute I connect with all the sages, I connect with, don't you feel it that way? Sometimes in the presence of some wise person, you suddenly feel very wise.
I never feel wise, but that's just me. Lao Tzu, you are wise, so that's you.
But don't
But
you
yeah, I
feel
got
that
you too.
way?
Yeah.
Don't
Yes,
you feel
yes,
that
yes.
way? Yeah, that's why
Not
you want to
not
go to a school.
actually
You
not
want,
wise, but compassionate. I mean, there are
yeah,
people who just by being in the room, I feel
that's
more
right.
compassionate about
That's right.
towards other people.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right, you do. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
you want to enroll into good
Mm-hmm.
universities, right? To be
Mm-hmm.
among all
Mm-hmm.
these people
Mm-hmm.
who can bring out the best in you.
Mm-hmm.
They are already in you.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. There are actually two people who come to mind who are like does that very strongly. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're in the presence, you know that if they love you, but more importantly, you love everybody, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
the Dalai Lama and
Yes.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu, that
Yes.
from entirely different religions, but they
That's
have
right.
that same thing in them.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Mm,
That's right. And we hope
mm,
that all of us will
mhm,
be able to do that. When people are in our
mhm,
presence,
mhm,
not only people, when
mm,
animals even, when they're in our presence, they're
mhm.
not afraid of us.
I'm afraid of them. So I agree with you. Yes, that's a beautiful thought. Thank you, teacher. We have let's see, we have a question from Nila. Nila, can you unmute yourself?
Good morning, Venerable Juewei. It's
Good morning.
Coast. I wanted to touch up on that subject about the scam calls that you were mentioning. I thought that touched upon all the steps, the 8 steps, why people would, like they wouldn't give generously, they hold on to the money because they want to use it, later on if they're sick, but then they just willingly give away to someone and sometimes it seems obvious, like, why are you, falling for the stories? And I feel like there's a lot of human factors behind it. And I was wondering if you could touch up on that.
Sure. Thank you, Nilashi. It is indeed so true. What do those scammers go for? They go for our sense of lack and our greed, isn't it? They usually say, hey, there's an opportunity for you to make a lot more money as a result, and it slowly leads you into the trap. Or your sense of fear for a loved one, or fear for something. So they know these scammers, I think, are very brilliant psychologists. They know how to work on the weaknesses in our mind. So that's why in all these episodes, we always have a mindful check-in, is to develop that pause. We don't have to respond directly, immediately. As like yesterday, someone called me and asked me to donate to a foundation that I've donated once, and they want me to do it on a monthly scheme, right? I really trust that foundation. I trust the guy on the phone, but I go like, no, just give me a little time. Let me go to the website and I'll check this out. So we can always pause things. But why don't we? We have that tendency, right, to want to solve a problem quickly. We are not patient enough to hold back, to be just contented with where we are now and say, never mind, just wait, just wait. So maybe that will help.
So also, if I can again try to capture what you just said, I think the key point is to give yourself time to think. Right? Is that the key point?
Yes, give yourself a little time. Give yourself a little step back a little. Even as a bodhisattva, with this bodhicitta, you need self-care. And where is that self-care? That self-care is in pausing. Check. What does this activity demand of me? What capacity do I have? Have I built it up enough? We have limitless number of lives. We're going to come back anyway. So we're going to meet anyway.
Right. So therefore, on our end, part of the Bodhisattva way of life is to be able to contribute sustainably, right? And therefore, self-care is part of being a Bodhisattva.
Don't rush.
Mm, mm,
Don't rush. There's really no need to rush.
mm. Okay.
But we want to also not be lazy. So that middle way is important. And the middle way is not always the 50% way.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Yes.
Yes. So I heard one of other teachers say, work as hard as you can, but no harder.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that no harder
Yes.
is a difficult point.
Mm, 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 mm.
So you have to be very mindful.
Yes.
Check, always check. What's your body telling you?
Mm,
Check the wisdom of your body, because
Mm.
our body will give us signals.
Mm.
If we ignore those signals
Mm.
again and again,
mhm,
the
mhm.
body will just send louder signals.
Mm. That is true. Yeah. So yeah, it goes back to the question somebody asked in the previous episode. Like this person who's on the call right now, I can see her. She's always so busy because she's always doing important Dharma work, and she's
Yeah.
so overwhelmed to the extent that she don't even have time to sleep properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I took the opposite. I did the opposite thing. I make sure I have enough sleep. However, because I'm such a lazy person, I sleep for like 9 hours a day and sometimes 10 hours. And therefore, because I mean, the work I'm doing, this is important Dharma work, right? And I'm not doing it. So because I'm sleeping. So,
Well,
yeah.
you do important Dharma work when you're awake. So you have another 12 hours that you're doing Dharma work.
Okay. That's almost 50%. Okay. Thank you, Lao Sư. That's very helpful. With that, teacher, can we invite you to close this session?
Of course, I'll be happy to. Let me just share my screen again. I'd like to invite friends here to join the communities of practice that's held at the same time on a Sunday for 30 minutes of Dharma reflection and community connection. At Nan Tien Institute has this semester offered audit opportunities for our subjects, which offers you the same depth of participation in group learning without formal assessments. And I've been talking a lot about the moral concern of a bodhisattva. Guess why? Because I'm teaching Buddhist ethics. So this is a different way of looking at ethics. You know how Western ethics tends to be virtue ethics, consequentialist, deontology, and Indian ethics is bhakti. But Buddhist ethics involves something slightly different. It's phenomenological. And what I'll cover in this subject is how Buddhists can view the world differently from an input ethics point of view as opposed to output ethics. So if you're interested, please join me in this subject. Shall we, Meng, check out together?
Yes, please.
All right. A prayer for the people who listen to the Dharma by Venerable Master Sheng Yun. O great compassionate Buddha, please guide us in understanding cause and effect and karmic retribution clearly. Please guide us in exalting loving kindness, compassion, and equanimity. Please guide us in respectfully upholding the 5 precepts and the 10 wholesome conducts. Please guide us in carrying out the 6 paramitas. We hope to transfer the merits of listening to the Buddha's teachings to all beings in the Dharma realms. May we all seek and realize supreme enlightenment. O great compassionate Buddha, please accept our sincerest prayer. O great compassionate Buddha, please accept our sincerest prayer.
Namo Amituofo. My friends, please bow to our teacher. Thank you, dear teacher. Yes. For those of you who can, I encourage all you to attend Venerables classes on ethics and everything else. I mean, you've seen over the past 9 episodes, she's just an amazing teacher. So don't miss the chance to go learn from her. And let's see. Okay, so thank you, Venerable, for being with us. This recording will be uploaded onto YouTube, onto the Buddhism.net YouTube channel. So like, subscribe, tell all your friends. If you want to watch Venerable's past sessions, we have a playlist of her sessions on our YouTube channel. So don't be shy to go over and take a look and learn from her all over again. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, yes, you, please sign up on our mailing list on the link below, because our mailing list is where you get informed of all our goodies, and you don't want to miss our goodies. Oh no. So friends, if you want to show appreciation and gratitude to our teacher, Venerable Juewei, you may make a donation to Nan Tien Institute. We'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. So next week, we will have our third and final after Vibe at the end of this series. We have the third and final after Vibe of this series, where we gather for peer sharing, reflection, and Dharma exploration, facilitated by our very own Joseph and Angela. So registration is required, and the link will be sent by chat and again by email. And in April, the great Malaysian master, Bante Akachita, will be teaching us how we, normal people with busy lives, can practice the 4 establishments of mindfulness. So registration is open now, and the link is shared again by chat and by email. And then, okay, we've arrived at this point. Next week will be Venerable Juewei's last week with us for this year. Oh, but it's okay. She'll be back next year. And for her session next week, she'll be doing something very special. She'll be doing storytelling. She will share her own story, and also the story of how the Sutra of the 8 realizations of great beings has guided her life and her practice. So interesting. Don't miss it. So come next week. With that, thank you, my friends.